Thank you to the commissioner and the amazing job he does of and you just look and even coming here, you can see what it means that when you talk about the SEC just means more. You show up at media days and you see the attention and the excitement and the energy of not just the media that are here, but all the fans that show up and all the people that are really excited to get this season going. And we're really excited about this year. Obviously, I know it'll be a little different. We lost a great member of the Gator family when George Edmondson, Mr. Two Bits, passed away. And that is such it'll be a really interesting to see our first game, when they come out and to go have a tribute to him and what he did and one of the great traditions in college football. I think it's one of the things that makes college football so special is the traditions. I know everybody loves the game, the excitement and the energy and the game day and playing football is the greatest sport in the world and the excitement that the game brings. But in college football, the traditions and the passion that come along with those traditions are what makes it so special. So we brought some great players here with us today. I brought Michael Pirine, our running back, is here with us. A great came back for his senior year. Obviously, dynamic player as a running back, but also great skill set in the receiving, all-around player. Jabari Zuniga's here with us today, a defensive end. Again, came back for his senior year. Really important. I know his mom hits me up every day of making sure he's on track to graduate, and that was the most important part of his decision to come back his senior year, even more so than his growth development in a football career, but to make sure that he gets his degree. And we brought quarterback Philippi Frank with us, who I really think has come a long way. Continues to grow, continues to develop, continues to take those steps and in development, because especially in today's world, you look at the development of the top 25 ranked quarterbacks on all the recruiting sites in his recruiting class. 17 of them have transferred already, and he's stuck it out, and he's continued to work and stay through different adversities to continue to grow, to continue to develop, and he's starting to reap all the rewards of that now with how he finished last year. But not just those three, our whole team. I think we took great strides in our first year in the program. When you look in year one and you get a 10-win season, you finish ranked 6th in the country in the final polls, was really exciting. It showed how fast our guys bought into what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build. And we have a great group of guys coming back, a lot of talented players coming back on this year's team that now have won games and have high expectations and understand what the Gator standard is all about. And it's about competing for championships every single year. And the positive attitude that we have is really exciting. And the excitement beyond just football and what's going on in the field is great. I'm really excited. We have, we just walked in today, did the unveiling for our new locker room in the stadium, the Brian Kornblau locker room. That is unbelievable. Our players got to get in there for the first time today as we continue to work on upgrading our facilities. We're going to, within the next 12 months, we'll be breaking ground, hopefully, on our new football training facility, which will be a state-of-the-art new everyday operations facility for the football program. As well as involve other aspects for all students on campus. One of the great things you look in the Gator standard that we talk about at the University of Florida goes beyond football, goes into all sports, where every sport on campus is expected to compete for and win championships, both SEC and national championships. And it's great. I love having our players around all those other student athletes, all these successful athletes in other sports. And then when you leave the athletic field and you get to go to the classroom and to be a school, one of the only school in America that was ranked in the top 10 in academics and top 10 in football of public schools in America last year. And they're going out against the premier students every single day and working with and studying with and associating with and networking with and competing with some of the top students in the United States. The complete package that comes with it, and that's really what we believe the Gator standard to be, is about being the absolute best that you can be at whatever it is that you're doing. So our guys have really bought into that. I think we had a great off season. the strides our guys took coming in, getting ready for year 2. We need to take a huge step forward for us this year. I think we had a lot of success last year, but our consistency of performance is something I want to see us change to perform at a high level every single game, every single week, every single play. The consistency of our performance to continue to improve. So I was going to use all 30 minutes and ramble on, but then you guys would be upset that no one got to ask any questions. So let's open it up to some questions.
All right. Thank you, Coach Mullen. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. We've got Amanda, Jordan, and Sarah. We'll start right over here to our left, Coach, third row.
Drew DeArmond, WZZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama. Coach Mullen, you've done a great job developing quarterbacks during your time at Mississippi State and with the Gators. What did you think Philippi Frank's improved? What aspect of his game did you think improved the most last year?
Well, I think as the year went on, I think he understood what his abilities were, and he decided to use all of his talents. I think a light came on that I'm 6'6", 245 pounds, and pretty athletic, and if they're going to just completely empty the middle of the field and I can run into the end zone from 20 yards away untouched, that I could do that. And I think when he bought into using all of his skill set to play and not trying to limit himself or not trying to worry really about what everybody else thought, he was going to be a better player, and he did that. I think he started to block out all the outside noise, all the other opinions. I told him, I said, if you think if you know of all these other opinions that are out there of how to play the quarterback position, if there's someone better than Brian Johnson, let me know. I'll hire them to be our quarterback coach. But I think he's a pretty darn good quarterback coach. I have some pretty good experience developing quarterbacks as well. But Felipe, if you think everybody on Twitter is much better at that to coach us, let us know. We'll look at them as being the quarterback coach. So I think once he was able to block all of the things out, all of the outside noise, and really look at his skill set, what he does well, he was able to improve, and I think that helped build his confidence and improved his performance on the field. And I thought he took huge strides this spring as well of doing that, of now not just understanding himself, but how to use his skill set and a better understanding of making plays within the offensive system.
Okay, Coach, we'll go over to the left, about 3/4 of the way back. Mike.
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel. Coach, how important is that Miami game in Orlando to open the season as far as keeping the momentum going that you guys built at the end of last year in the bowl game?
Well, I think it's huge. There's a lot that goes into that game. We're the opening game of the 150th year of college football, so it's a great honor to be involved in that game. You have everyone that's been really can't wait for college football to start. We get to kick the season off with getting to watch Florida play Miami, and on top of it being a big rivalry game. Within the state of Florida. And, it's not one that's played all the time, but there's a lot of tradition in that game, and there's a lot of people that have very strong opinions and are happy that game's being played, and to get to see that rivalry be played is really exciting. And to start off the season. It is a huge, it's going to be a huge, kind of catapult for one of the teams, whoever wins that game, into really kicking off the season on the right note with a big win and a big game with a lot of national exposure. So that's a big game for us. It's exciting to be a part of it, and I know our players are excited to play in it.
Coach will stay in the center section on the right aisle.
Dan, what was Connor Guerra, Saturday Down South? What was your reaction to hearing that Felipe had been drafted by the Red Sox?
Well, as a Red Sox fan, that they do need a lot of help in the bullpen. It looks like we've been struggling that way, but I think he can throw. He's got a lot of heat. He said he threw it 95 in the workout for him. I've seen, though, he's still working on his accuracy, so I don't know if I'd want to get in the batter's box if he's throwing 95. But I think it's, I think it's great for him. It's a great honor for him to get to go have that opportunity. There's another quarterback that I coached that, I don't know if anybody's heard him. He's this kind of minor league ball player right now, plays for the AAA Mets, named Tim Tebow, and he's managing to try to pick up baseball. So maybe when football's done, maybe he has a future in baseball, and that'd be really exciting for him. I'd be really happy for him. I'm glad it was the Red Sox. I'm a big Red Sox fan, so if one of our guys got to go to a team, I'd love it to be the Red Sox.
All right, Coach will stay in the center aisle, left aisle.
Sam Mullen from Mail.com. I'm curious, what you've seen from Diabate and just kind of the challenges of maybe recruiting players from a opposition's college town.
You know what? I think he's done a great job. Obviously, he's such a high-end character young man, and he's a great academic student. So I know that the draws of coming to the University of Florida for him and his family as such a great, not just football player, but academic student as well, were huge. And I think, he's got a great attitude and a great work ethic, and had a pretty solid spring for us. Obviously, it's making that adjustment and want to see how that adjustment translates onto the field as young players. He's still a young guy, but by graduating early, I do think sometimes you give yourself that advantage of getting to go through an off season to understand what it is, and you get to physically develop a little bit better, and it gives you that opportunity to get on the field and play right away as a freshman.
Coach will go all the way to the back of the right side.
Hi, Luke Guillory from the Red and Black. Commissioner Sankey talked about mental health in his opening, and you've talked a lot about academics. Is that something you focus on within your program, the stress on players on the field and off the field in the classroom?
Absolutely. I think, one of the things you look at our players is they come on. I think a lot of things, there's lots of different pressures on them. There are guys that on a Saturday, a lot of people come watch them play, and a lot of people, think, boy, these guys are these, celebrity football stars. Monday morning, they still got to go to class with everybody else. They still got to make sure they're turning in their papers, getting their assignments done, get in the classroom, and complete their degree and continue to work that way. So there are those pressures that come from them, not just the time responsibilities and the physical strain of playing football, but the emotional responsibilities of the pressure of being 19 years old, and having everybody really critique your performance. And then, just that maturity. College is such a big maturing time for young people. You think of that 18 to 22 years old, and how you learn about yourself, find out about yourself. A lot of guys, it's their first time ever being away from home, and you're growing and you're finding out about yourself. And a lot of these guys are doing it under a spotlight with a lot of people watching them and critiquing everything that they do. So I think it's huge. We spend a lot of time with our team on developing every aspect of their life, of maintaining not just their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health, and allowing them to continue to grow and develop in every way possible and expose them to as much as possible so that they can learn. Our ultimate responsibility for me as the head coach is make sure that, when these guys walk out the door, that they're prepared for whatever the world's going to throw at them. I think everybody gets caught up in the 1% that go on to play professional football. But there's a lot of guys in our program that have a whole life ahead of them to go leave, and we have to make sure that they're prepared for whatever life is going to go throw at them.
Coach will go straight in front of us here in the second row.
Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. Dan, everybody says college football needs a rivalries really bad, and we know they do. Florida has more rivalries than most teams do, as you know quite well. In particular, one that resides in the state up above where you operate. There's been a lot of talk between the two schools, the fans at least, a lot this summer, more than usual. Good thing, bad thing, and do you sense there's more talk about Florida, Georgia?
I don't know. I think the rivalries, one thing that is unique for us, as you said, you have the different rivalries that we deal with. And I think one of the things, if you can find a Florida fan that, and I don't know if you'll find a consensus one way or the other, this is our biggest rivalry or that's our biggest rivalry. And I think that makes it fun. The rivalries are what's special, for us. Obviously, every game that we play is really important. The rivalry games always have a little bit more meaning to them. But I don't know that one's bigger than the other for us, and I think I think if you look at the fans, I think maybe if you look at the Florida-Georgia rivalry, and it is a unique deal because it has a lot of implications on who's going to win the SEC East. If you look at Florida State rivalry, it has a lot of implications on people that are neighbors and live next to each other and, within the state boundaries. And so I think they're very unique in their own way of what makes the rivalry special.
Okay, we're going to go back here on the right side, right here alongside the aisle.
Ryan Lavoie, Sports Call Auburn. Coach Mullen, do you have any interest, talking about that Florida-Georgia rivalry, of making it into a campus game, both in Athens and in Gainesville, or do you like that it's a neutral site in Jacksonville?
You know what? I think you can make an argument either way. I think being in the neutral site, obviously, it makes it a very special game, a very unique game that you get to go coach in. And there's not many of those in college football. If you look at those every year traditional neutral site games, right? And I might be off on it. I know there's Florida, Georgia, there's Texas, Oklahoma, and there's Army, Navy. I don't know if there's any more than that. If I am, I don't want to offend a rivalry out there. But that's something special to say that you got to play in this very special, unique game. But you can also see and make the argument on the other way of how big a game it is. You're taking one of your biggest rivalry games every year, and you're moving it off campus where you can't host that in your home stadium for your fans, all your season ticket holders for recruiting. So, I think that you can make arguments on both sides of why it should stay in Jacksonville, why it should leave Jacksonville, and be a home and home. And it's interesting. I think, it'll be interesting discussion in the next couple of years is when the contract runs up of what the future is going to be for that game.
Okay, we're going to stay on the right side, Coach, about 3/4 of the way back. If you could stand. Thank you.
Coach, Ben Portnoy from Commercial Dispatch. Just at Mississippi State, year 1 to year 2, y'all obviously made a big jump. Is there anything you can maybe apply from, say, that situation to this year's? And I guess, obviously, having jumped to 10 wins last year, is there what maybe goes into jumping from, say, 10 to 11 or 12?
Well, let's hope we make the same jump we did there. So I think we went from 5 to 9 or 10, 9. That's 4. So if we can go from 10 to 14, that would be pretty good. This year, I would take that. But I think a lot of it, comes from year 1 to year 2. I think coming in now, everyone understands the program. So when you come in last year, when you show up in January and you're going through the off season, it's the first time the guys had ever done it. They're going through spring ball. They didn't really always know what to expect out there on the field. Even though you can talk about it, they'd never physically done it. Then you go through summer and training camp and in season. We go to play our first game and your first pregame meal. It's like, okay, how does this work? I think in year 2, there's a lot more comfort within the program. Our guys knew what to expect to come into the offseason. It's easier to attack the offseason, and I think we've made bigger gains in a lot of ways this offseason than we did last year. I think, a lot of last year's are dramatic gains because, it's very different than what they've done. But this year, there's a better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish so you can make big gains. In spring ball, we go out on the practice field. There's no question or doubts. When we go to drills, everybody knows what the expectations are. They've run the offense and run the defense. So I think that gives you an opportunity to have a big jump in the second season. Obviously, I think we had a great year last year, but we'd love it to be even better this year.
Coach, we'll go on this left aisle of this center section in the back.
Hey, Dan. Brooks Gabina from The Advocate in Baton Rouge. There seems to be a trend, at least at LSU, with defenses looking for one-on-one matchups, even going away from standard positions in the secondary and linebackers to get those. Just offensively, have you noticed that, and how do you attack that offensively?
Well, I think one thing, if you look at football, there is a very much of a matchup game. It's something that I think we started to really work on about 15 years ago when we created the offense, is how to create advantageous matchups out there on the field, is how to take, how to work to get one of our better players or our best players on one of your weaker players. And so I think that was always a big focus that we have. And it's, I think if you look at football at the next level, at the NFL, I think that's a huge focus in the NFL of how do they create different matchups on the field. Well, because of that, I think defenses have done a great job throughout the years of trying to adjust to that. If you're creating this matchup over here offensively, how do we defend and not allow you to create a huge advantageous matchup on you? And it's just part of the chess game back and forth.
Okay, Coach, we'll go over to our right here in the second row.
Coach Alan Binder from the New York Times. There was no turnover this offseason among head coaches in the SEC. How do you see that translating to your field prep or your game prep and your on-field work?
I don't know. We don't play everybody in the league, so I guess it's only tricky when you're playing somebody new. But there were some coordinator changes as well, so you're going to have to deal with that part of it. You know, whoever's calling the plays and how you adjust to those things. But it was good, pretty interesting that there wasn't turnover this year. This is I think my 11th year being here at SEC Media Days, and this might be the first time in those 11 years that when we go to our league meetings, we go to the spring meetings, and it's all same 11. The other 13 people are the same. It was 11 for a while, and 13 people are all the same. So I don't know that that's happened before, but I think it's unique. I think it's great. I think, I do think there's a lot to building programs. I was very fortunate. I got to spend 9 years at Mississippi State University. In that time, I was allowed to go build a program that could potentially win consistently. I know it's tough in today's world because everybody wants instant gratification. But I was able to build a program that could win consistently there. And that's the same thing I want to accomplish at the University of Florida, is come in and build a program that not just wins, but also competing for championships on a consistent basis. And to do that, sometimes that takes time. And I guess it's good to see that people are looking in and saying, hey, if we feel comfortable with the direction our program's headed, we're gonna be patient with this and give this coach an opportunity to go build it, to go have success over the long haul.
Coach, we'll go here to our left in the front row. Parrish.
Parrish Alford Daily Journal. Dan, what was your take on Van Jefferson, how he adapted to new surroundings, and your expectations for him?
Well, I think Van, coming in and being a first-year player in our program, he worked hard. Came in, worked his tail off in the offseason, put on some weight and some size, got faster, and then went out and performed. He's a worker. He's one of those guys that is constantly working every day on being a better route runner, working on his hands, studying the game, understanding the game. And I think that translated into a lot of the success. He was our leading receiver last year, and coming back this year, I think he's a guy also has great maturity to understand and saying, okay, here's the parts of my game that I need to, as all of our guys do, have great aspirations of going on and playing professional football. But he has the maturity to understand, here's parts of my game I can continue to work on to put myself in a position to be completely prepared when I get an opportunity to go to the next level. And he's done that all spring and has had a tremendous spring, and it has really adapted well into the program, into what we do and how we run the program. And it's really great. Our program's about hard work. And that's something he believes in. So I think it's a great fit for him to be in a program that really has the same values that he has.
Coach, will go straight in front of us here on the front row.
Coach, we know Joe Bombo, SB Nation Radio. We know you've always talked about this system being sort of like a 2-year process, and clearly you guys hit the ground running last year. How do you control the narrative that the bar could possibly be set too high, and going into this year, what's your message to those guys?
Well, I like to set the bar really high. I don't know if there's anybody out there that has higher expectations for this team and for the program as a whole than I do. So we like to set that bar high, and we're constantly striving to be the absolute best that we can be. So I don't always let expectations bother me. I kind of like them. Having expectations, and I like guys in our program to have expectations and expect great things from themselves, expect great things from the team, and expect great things from the program. So instead of shying away from them, embrace those expectations, and try to live up to them, and to be honest with you, try to surpass the expectations that are out there for you as a team and for us as a program. And I think if you do that, you're going to have the opportunity to be successful. And that's something we've always tried to live by.
Okay, Coach, we'll go back over here to our right on the second row. Microphone coming up behind you.
Coach, Matt Lowe with Lindy Sports. Just wanted to get your, what about the transfer portal? Do you think there should be some kind of a timetable where kids can transfer, and what kind of challenges does that present as far as managing your roster?
Well, being new, I think it offers a great deal of challenges right now for everybody. And, I think one of the hard ones is finding the balance of, the signing limitations that the NCAA has. And I understand it. Having worked on NCAA committees, I'm understanding why they have those and the reasoning for them. But also, if you're going to have the transfer portal and this many guys enter the transfer portal in 1 year, I think you also have to look and say, okay, well, we've changed a rule over here, so we have to be willing to change a rule over here to make it fit, to allow coaches to be able to best manage the roster and allow programs to manage their roster. I think it'll be something. I think it'll still be probably, some rough waters still for the next couple of years for everybody involved. The players that are transferring, the programs that that have guys transferring in and out of, and obviously the NCAA and different leagues at the administrative level of what the trends are and how to go work with it, right? I think I read somewhere there's more kids in the transfer portal than scholarships available, so that doesn't make a lot of sense for those kids. I mean, kids are going to be left without, and kids are going to be put in a bad situation. Potentially, some it'll work out for some, not for others, and that's always a rough deal. So I'd be interested to see how it goes over the next couple of years within transfers, and for these kids, I mean, hey, I've had a guy on the transfer portal and come to me and say, well, Coach, it's good, right? I'm going to be immediately eligible where I can go play there next year. I don't think so. I think you have to, that school's going to have to file a waiver for you. For the NCAA, and well, can you say yes? I said, the NCAA says yes. I don't control who's eligible and not in the NCAA. So I think there's a lot of a learning curve that goes on, and there's going to continue to be a lot of learning curve for both players, coaches, and administrations within the transfer portal for the next couple of years until everybody adapts to it. There's going to be a new norm, though, in college football. It's going to be very different than it's been. And I think as everybody learns to adapt to it and what the best way is to adapt to it, we'll see over the next several years.
Okay, we have time for maybe one more. If anybody has one, we'll come back up here and finish on the right-hand side, second row.
Hey, Coach, Bruce Marshall from Sports Byline USA. Quick question about players coming out early. And in comparison to basketball, which seems to allows a little bit more time for the players to judge. They have camps, they can pull their name out. On the football side, it happens really quick, especially for teams that play in bowl games, and that process seems to really be rushed. Is that an optimal way to do it, or do you think something more like basketball is more appropriate?
But I'd have to really study the basketball way. I study our way because I know that's the reality that we live in right now. And so what's the best way for me? As a head coach, I try as best as I can to educate guys and to help and allow them to make great decisions, for the short term and obviously for their long-term futures. And I think it is. I think one of the hardest things we do deal with is making sure that guys get the proper information and make great decisions. I've seen guys make really good decisions declaring early for the NFL draft, and I've seen guys make really good decisions coming back to school and staying to continue their growth and development. You see guys that make really poor decisions leaving early for the NFL draft. Where that really hurt them, and they could have had a lot more success if they had stayed. I haven't seen many that have decided to stay and that hurt them. So I'm sure there's one or a couple of cases out there. But to me, it is making sure that they have the knowledge and the understanding to make the best decisions for themselves and for the future. And and I always hope that guys make the right ones. That's the biggest one for me. Mine is I hope they make the right ones because my concern is not just short term but their long term future, that they're making the best decision for them for their future and their lives.
All right, Coach Mullen, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Get ready for some football. Go Gators.